Stray voltage in the pool. Okay, saltwater pool. Kids felt a little sting. Measured 3 volts from the water to the wet concrete deck. Power company came, killed power at the transformer, voltage still in pool. Disconnected the neutral at transformer, no voltage in pool. The response, the power company has a problem, but if the pool is bonded correctly, we would not feel the voltage in the pool. Now I began to look and see where the copper wire was grounded at the equipment pad. I couldn't find a copper ground. All I could find was the copper wire that was connected to the plumbing anode to the pump. Nothing from pump to ground. Nor was there a ground wire outside to the outside breaker panel. I called the pool company and sent pictures. Guy came out, said he was going to send guys to dig to find copper. 4 days passed, so nothing. So I dug near the equipment pad, found a ground wire wrapped multiple times around PVC pipes with loose end laying in the dirt. Called the pool company. They were going to send guys to the house several days ago. They didn't show. Today, I drove 2 ground rods end to end in the ground, connected the copper wire to the ground rod, ran copper wire from the rod to the pump and the outside panel, still measuring voltage. Then I connected one end of a number 10 wire, 100 foot long, to the grounding rod, connected the other end of wire to a lead on an analog meter, took the meter to all the parts around the pool. 3 places had 0 ohms, 3 places had 80 ohms. The pool is 10 years old. Any ideas? Could the fact that the copper wire that just laid in the dirt for 10 years instead of being connected to the grounding rod and anode have contributed to this? Any idea of what the power company problem is? Thank you for any assistance. Tim in Alabama.
Okay, so let me try to unravel this in a fairly long and convoluted, but hopefully somewhat concise way. When that bond wire is looped around the pool, now I didn't hear whether this was a vinyl liner pool, concrete pool, fiberglass pool. That would help a little bit, but not necessarily. That bond wire wraps around the pool, runs back to the equipment, hits each piece of the equipment, and terminates. Does not go to a grounding rod. It terminates at each of the pieces of equipment, and then the bonding is picked up by the grounding of the pump back to wherever your pump is, your power source to your pump is, and then that ground runs back to the panel at the house, at the sub panel, wherever. Now, I don't know the technical reasons for this, but I can tell you that I sat in a seminar a number of years ago from one of the world-renowned, he's not an electrician, he was an electrical engineer, discussing the issues of bonding and grounding and the difference in why to do things and why not to do things. And out of that discussion, one of the things that came clear to me, and he said, do not do. Now, I can't tell you why, but this is what he said. Do not run a separate grounding rod for your pool equipment, because what happens somehow, again, this is the part that I don't fully understand, but these are his words. He said, when you run a grounding rod at your equipment and your home has a grounding rod pounded in, you cause some type of, I don't even know, although I'm going to tell you, he said don't do it. I wish I understood that better to be able to help you with this issue. I did have a pool many years ago that when someone was in the pool and wet and they touched, we had concrete rocks we had built around or the edge of the pool. If they had any imperfections on their hands at all, scratches or anything, they would get that jolt. And here's what we found had happened. This happened to be a vinyl liner pool, which typical vinyl liner construction, you have a step at one end somewhere, it's constant steel all the way around, you run your bond wire, you hit it 3 or 4 times depending on what your code is, and you're good. In this case, we had 2 steps. And while the bond wire was wrapped around the pool, it was only hit 3 or 4 times on one side and ends of the pool, and it had been missed between the two steps, and we now had a piece of steel that had not been bonded, and that in fact drew that voltage from the ground. And what people don't typically understand is the electrical is in the ground and it's jumping to the water, and that's what you're feeling when you touch something that's wet. You're feeling the electrical potential jumping from the concrete through your hands and trying to get to the water is what it's doing. Most people think it's the water's electrified and it's trying to get out. No, in fact, it's the other way around. If the pool steel is properly bonded and run back to the equipment, and the equipment is properly grounded, that should solve the problem. The advantage of the anode and the bond wire to the anode, I'm assuming you have one of the anodes that's in a clear tube bolted to your plumbing that has the bond wire sticking out of the top that then you split bolt into the rest of your bond wire. If you don't have one, what's probably happening is you're not bonding the water itself, and that's where having one of those types would work. They made some for a time being. A sacrificial anode basically draws that electricity to itself, destroys itself, and maintains and saves the equipment. But what they found was if you added that bonding issue to the anode, now you're leaching the electricity away from the pool. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but in what I understand, and I can't explain why I understand it, it's a feeling because of my learning from someone who I'm sure articulated perfectly as to why I just didn't get the why not to do this grounding rod situation. But he had a clear reason that somehow it back channeled voltage from the house to the pool, something. Anyway, you might want to talk to an electrician. This is not the average electrician's conversation. You probably got to go a bit higher. Unfortunately, that gentleman is no longer available for us to talk with. But he was spectacular in his understanding. So that voltage is coming from somewhere. You might want to look at other things that are leaching into the ground. Do you have speaker wires? Do you have, has there been any work done, any additions put on, or, anything that else is going on? Did you add outlets somewhere? Somewhere that the grounding is broken, I think.
It can come from farther away, several houses away.
It certainly can, but what he explained, though, why I don't think that is because when the power company disconnected the neutral, it went away. So to me, the source is there somewhere. It's a broken ground wire, not bond wire, although it could be a broken bond wire as well. What used to happen, and here again, don't know how old the pool is, don't know a lot of those other circumstances, was there a grid poured, or when they poured the patio, was there just a bond wire laying in the ground that they poured over, or did they put an equipotential grid? Here's another thing. I'll get back to what I was talking about, but another thing, what we found, I think it was when Katrina happened in in New Orleans, that this came to light, was when concrete was getting wet, it was conducting electricity, and they couldn't figure it out. And then the other story that I've heard is there was a farmer whose cows, when it was raining, would refuse to come in and eat because the electricity itself was leaching electrical from underground, and of course the animals didn't want to step on it and feel that, so they were refusing to come in. That led to understanding the need to put an equipotential grid under concrete that's around water. So that's why a pool today has an equipotential grid around it. And what that does is it allows all the electricity to leach into the steel, down that bond wire and back. The other thing that happened, you might want to think, did you add any handrails? Did you add any drill through the concrete? I've seen this happen quite a few times actually. Drill through to be able to put a cup in, to put a volleyball net in, and you literally cut right through the bond wire, don't even know you did it because you saw your concrete cutting through there. And next thing you know, you've lost your bonding. The other thing that we've done in recent years to ensure that a bond stays complete is, it used to be you started at the equipment, you came out to the pool, you went all the way around the pool and connected those together. What we do now is we come out from the equipment, we go around the pool, and then we go back to the equipment with the bonding wire. Reason being, if one gets cut on one end anywhere, you still have the entire thing being bonded from that other side. So there's a lot of mystery in that, but there's a lot of potential things that it could be. If you could elaborate more, and I know you tried to give me as much detail as you could at that point, but if you can give me more, and age, how old this is.
10 years.
It's 10 years
But
old.
saltwater, how
Salt
old is
water,
that?
salt
When was
water
it
also
added?
adds a whole nother element, because pure water without anything dissolved in it does not conduct electricity. As soon as you add salt to the water, it becomes conductive, and that's where you really notice those trace voltages. You could have also, sorry, it keeps going on here, but what you might want to do is check to see if you have any type of electrolysis happening. Are your stainless ladders being coated with anything? Is your light ring changing colors? All of those things are going to be indicators as well. And 10 years ago, we would have had equipotential grids required in the electrical code. There would have been required inside of a pool light, having the ground wire, which is attaches to the inside of the niche, would have required a bonding kit that kept it from being corroded by the water. It would have also required that there be a bond wire from the backside, a number 8 solid going back to bond. So all of those things should have been in place, but if any one of those is not working properly, or been broken, or been changed, there's a chance that it's something just weird that just doesn't make any sense. And this whole idea of a wire wrapped around a piece of PVC doesn't sound like anything that I've ever seen or heard, or even understand why someone would do that, other than it just got accidentally buried along the way here somehow. So if you want to try to reach out and give me some more specific information about a lot of the details of the type of pool and the things that additional stuff you might know, maybe I can point you a little better direction. But good luck. This could be a mystery that we could dig into for a long time before we find the reason that it's happening.